One of the most haunted buildings in Yorkshire is East Riddlesdon Hall. It's a 17th century manor house filled with supernatural activity. It's said that many a ghost roams the building, with sightings of everything from ghoulish children to spirit animals. The most frequent visitor is said to be the Grey Lady. During the Civil War, her husband, the Lord of the Manor, returned home to find that she'd been having an affair. Seething with anger, he murdered her lover and sealed the Grey Lady behind a brick wall. Today, her spirit is said to roam the corridors in search of her lost lover. There have been ghostly sightings of her in what is now called the Grey Lady's Chamber. Staff have often felt an unnerving presence here, and children have questioned who the lady in the corner of the room is when no one is there. Scarborough Castle. The tale of Piers Gaveston, Earl of Cornwall, is one of the region's more bloody ghost stories. His headless spirit is said to haunt the 3,000-year-old Scarborough Castle. There are rumours that he'd leap out of the shadows at tourists, causing them to fall off a sheer drop down the cliff. Despite the fact that his spirit seems to linger around the Yorkshire coastline, his execution actually took place down south, when the country was threatened by civil war. Piers and his close friend King Edward II fled to Scarborough. He was captured at the castle by the Earls of Pembroke and Warwick, and when the king escaped to York after begging for a fair trial in London, Piers was dragged past a jeering crowd and beheaded in Warwick. It is said that his bitterness has led him to terrorise the living ever since. Easby Woods. The small village of Richmond has a mysterious tale to its name. In the late 18th century, soldiers at Richmond Castle discovered an underground tunnel they believed would lead to Easby Abbey. They could only go so far down the narrow rubble-filled passageway, so they hatched a plan. A small drummer boy would continue through the tunnel while banging his drum, so the soldiers could follow the route from above. At first the plan seemed to work. They got all the way to Easby Woods, just half a mile away from the abbey, before the drumming stopped. The sudden silence unsettled the soldiers, so much that they abandoned the task and decided never to explore the tunnel again. Some believe that the roof collapsed on the boy and broke his neck, while others suspected a beast devoured him. To this day, no one knows what happened to the lost drummer boy, but his drumming is often heard carried by the wind, and it's said that his headless ghost roams the area. One of the more gruesome ghost stories in Yorkshire is the tale of Bert Marshall. His ghost is said to haunt the railway track at the top of Robin Hood's Bay on moonless nights. Unusually, his spirit clasps a pair of dentures, the same ones he stole from a corpse to replace his own teeth. His death, however, is even more gory. A cash-poor farmer who was unable to afford a horse, he walked along the railway every Friday night to his favourite pub, the Windhill Inn. One drunken night while walking home, he fell asleep on the railway tracks. A train sped past and decapitated him. When the police arrived, they could find no sign of his head, only his lifeless body. Bert's headless ghost has been known to drift around the track ever since, making a clicking sound with the dentures whilst trying to find his missing head. Bolton Abbey. The 12th century Augustinian monastery ruins of Bolton Abbey are said to be home to a roaming monk. Witnessed by the Marquis of Harrington in 1912, there have been rumours of him lurking around the area ever since. Known as the Black Canon, he's been seen by many a visitor over the years. The monk was said to have died shortly after the dissolution of the monasteries by Henry VIII, and his spirit has continued to linger, robed in a black coat and a flat brick hat. He's been described as an older man in his late 60s, with a heavily wrinkled face. Over the years, a surprising number of people have reported the sound of his sandals moving along the area, and they've even noted the smell of his incense in the summer. Hodroyd Hall. Hodroyd Hall, which sits on the outskirts of Barnsley, has existed in various forms since the 12th century. It is now split into 3 living spaces, but cannot shift the eerie stories of its past. It is believed that many spirits still reside within. Over the years, there have been many rumoured sightings, the most frightful being that of a murdered kitchen maid who is said to have scarring from being killed in one of the old fireplaces. The other most significant sight is that of a man named Dr. Bell, who is said to roam the staircases. There have also been further alleged sightings of a nun and a monk. The Midland Hotel. The popular Bradford Hotel, the Midland, built between 1885 and 1890, is a classic example of a Victorian railway hotel. There is a significant amount of history attached to the hotel, but the most memorable story is that of Sir Henry Irving, a famous Shakespearean stage actor who died on the main staircase after his appearance in the nearby Theatre Royal in 1905. He was accompanied by his manager and famed Dracula writer Bram Stoker. It is said that the ghost of Henry Irving remains within the hotel, with many rumoured sightings both in the hotel lobby and in the room he slept in the night before his final performance. Our last stop on our tour of haunted Yorkshire is York Museum. York Museum has been around since the late 1930s and is said to be haunted. The first sighting of a ghost was in 1953 by the then caretaker of the museum, Mr. Jonas. He is said to have seen a little man who he described as being dressed Edwardian. The encounter between Mr. Jonas and the Edwardian occurred when he and his wife had finished locking up for the day and had retired to their basement room. While they were down there, they could hear footsteps above them. Mr. Jonas then ventured up into the museum to see what was going on, and he saw somebody walking back and forth through the museum. Apparently he followed the man, went to put his hands on his shoulders, and then the man just disappeared. At a later point, there was also a story that was reported to the local newspaper. Mr. Jonas was accompanied by another man, and both of them saw and heard the apparition. This is a story that has been featured in the Yorkshire Post and has featured in numerous books since.